Forward to the cloud. Okay.
And
Let me
just
get
as a
the-
side note, David, I'm in the car. If Tony's on the app, you may want to consider making somebody else co-host because of the interest in tonight's meeting. We may have some, I don't know if we're going to need to boot people from Zoom bombing. So you may want to have other people have that capability sooner than later.
I understand. Who on the board is up to that? Gee, don't everybody speak at once. I'm
I
sure
might
Veronica was.
I would
Dave,
break, I would break it,
technically-
David.
Technically, Bill Ailes is our secretary. He's third in command technically, so maybe we
There
should
you
have
go.
him do it.
Yeah, I can be co-host. Yes, I can be co-host.
I will make you co-host. Thank you, Bill. Good point. I appreciate that. Okay, so to get things started, let me bring up the agenda. I will see, maybe I'll share my screen. I always have too many boxes open to figure out which one to use, so I'm just going to share my screen, and I will maximize this. This will be enough to get us started. This is Dave Weig, Chairman of the Morris Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the Morris Planning and Zoning Commission at approximately 7:05 p.m. on Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. Board members present, based on what I saw and when people were let in, are Veronica Florio, Eileen Arbutus, Bill Ailes, Doug Barnes, and Ron Schaefer, who is appointed for Barbara Bongelati. Did I miss anybody? And if somebody notices when Chris joins the meeting, please let me know so I can appoint him, or probably Del Knox, who's next on my list. I just usually go down the list on the agenda. Do we have anything we need to add to the agenda that's not on the agenda?
This is Eileen.
Tony,
I would like to add something to 3B training.
Training, you want to add training? Let's put
Yes,
that under
please.
other business, 6B.
Okay.
Do we need to add the invoice for Northwest Conservation District 2, Tony?
We can add it. I just didn't post it online, but we can add it, sure.
It's in your, the total is in your,
Yeah, so that's fine. We can add it. It's fine.
and if we want to wait till the next meeting, that's fine too.
Doesn't matter.
But so what we should do is probably add 6B and 6C. One will be training and the second will be the Northwest, not Conservation District, the Northwest Council of
Wouldn't that-
Government
This is
invoice.
Eileen. Wouldn't that fall under 7, communication and bills?
Oh,
That's
gee,
what I
yes,
thought.
you're right. Thank you. I'm glad you're
Yep.
reading the agenda as you're driving. I appreciate that. You're right. Yes. So
No, I have the
6B
numbers
and 7B.
memorized. No, I have the numbers
No, that's
memorized,
good.
Dave.
Good for you. I appreciate that. That's good. No issue. So I need somebody to make that motion, please.
This is Veronica. I'll make a motion to add 6B training and 7B, the invoice from the Northwest COG.
Do I have a
Eileen,
second to that motion? Thank you, Eileen. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Eileen. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. And if I skip over them, kick me. In an electronic sense. And 3A, PDD application. Now, let me, actually, I don't think I have tonight's agenda up.
It's attached to the,
Yeah, I don't have the town agenda. I have
oh, okay.
so just bear with me a second. I just have to, here we go. And let's refresh the screen. And that's like being rude again, isn't it? Oh, that's right. This.
Well,
I always
while
want
we're
to click
waiting,
that.
Tony, is it possible for you to spell Chris's last name correctly on the agenda, please?
You know, I must have copied it wrong because I did find it on the assessor card, but I can do that, sure.
Yeah, I can send you an email with the correct spelling of it, because it was correct on last meeting's agenda.
Sounds good. You can also send me his email too, okay?
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm scrolling down. Has everybody had a chance to read this? Or at
Yeah,
least look at it?
yep.
Yes.
At least most of us, some of us have.
I did
'Cause
as
it's-
well. I wish we got it a little sooner, so, because there was a lot to take in, but I did read it at least once.
I am not going to, I mean, at this point, just want to start off with the process here, and that gives people a chance to take a quick look at it who are online. The process here is that we have an application before us. Unless there's something that's, procedurally out of order with the application, it is the obligation of the Morris Planning and Zoning Commission to receive this application tonight. Upon receipt of this application, assuming there's nothing out of order, that motion will include the schedule for a public hearing. And we'll pick a date, sometime that gives adequate time for legal notice, and that works with the board schedule for that public hearing. At that public hearing, everybody will have a chance to speak. Tonight, I may ask Ben Poletsky to speak to introduce his application. However, that's really, at this point, there's no purpose in getting into heavy discussion on this. And once we schedule a public hearing, no discussion can occur on this outside of that public hearing. And it's quite possible that public hearing may run for several meetings. That has happened in the past with a large complex application. What the plan will be is that there are a number of communications that have been received about the application, and that will be put into the record. There is no purpose in putting into the record of this meeting, because what happens in this meeting, other than the receipt of this public hearing, really is not pertinent to the decision, because the decision will be based on what
After
people
receipt
know.
of the public hearing, receipt of the application.
Once we schedule that public hearing, the point is that the public record and the decision needs to be based on, things that were reasonably expected to be known by the board based on prior experience, plus what has occurred at the public hearing, the evidence presented at the public hearing. And that is why I have not processed or posted any communications over the past couple of months, because whether we were talking about the agritourism regulation or whether we're talking about the PDD that we do have now have, or the property in general, we want that should be on the record of the public hearing so the board can make an intelligent decision based on the evidence presented at that hearing. And I know Ben has communications that, I'm sorry, I never turned on my camera. Bear with me a second. And I know Ben has communications he wants to add to the record, and that will be allowed at that point in time. And of course, we'll take public, verbal testimony at that time. So at this point, I will turn the floor over to Ben Poletsky if he would like to make a comment or basically present his application and his thoughts and what is in here.
Thanks, Dave. This is Ben Poletsky for the record. I just want to give a quick overview as this step is a bit procedural, but the context here for Appendix 4 as the Town of Morris's third PDD is subject to the definition in Section 55 as noted in this PDD. You'll notice that it's staged out very similarly to the other accepted PDDs within the community, and it was modeled in such so that we have precedence in what worked and didn't work for previous applications. And it's a pretty simple stage through process with the understanding that the follow-on step to the PDD is the special exception permit. And I think what's important to clarify is that in the special exception process, that's where we discuss the details of
Yes.
what I would like to see. And I think, Dave, maybe we should just briefly chat about that so that everyone understands
Yes.
that how this
That's a good point. I did mean to mention that. Basically, and again, some of those communications are not just relative to the PDT, but will also be probably relative to the approval if the PDD is approved. Because if the process is, if the PDD is approved, then Ben would submit a second application for a special exception for the specific uses he wants today under the regulations that are drawn up for the property or properties. And at that point in time, we would get into the specifics of the application and the specific use. And there are a lot of details that are technical potentially that would come out at that point in time that are not necessarily subject to this part of the application.
Thanks.
Go on, Ben.
Thanks,
Hey,
Dave.
David, quick question. This is Eileen. So
Yeah.
if and when we decide to accept the application, it would just be the application that would go to the town meeting. And then if there's a special exception, would that also have to go to vote?
That is correct. And we don't accept anything. We receive applications
Receive.
and we
Excuse me, I'm
approve.
sorry. When we receive the application, my apologies.
That's okay. I just want to make sure, because I want everybody to be clear on that. And then after we receive an application, we generally receive an application when it's going to go to a public hearing, or where they're going to have a site plan that's going to be reviewed over a period of time. Then that either gets approved or denied. And of course, if this is approved, then there would be a second special exception application for the actual use.
So just so that the rest of the audience understands, if and when we have it goes to a vote, that's not going to be discussing the nuances of the actual, what wants to be, the land use is going to be. It's just going to be what is presented to us tonight.
Whether the regulations are here and conform to section 55 and meet the conditions laid out in section 50.
Great, just so that people understand at that meeting, it's not going to be talking about the special exception piece of this application.
That is correct. And
Thank you.
the point is, once you get to, when we do go and approve a special exception, there could be conditions on that approval that specify certain things regarding that use that is applied for at that point in time. This is a regulation. This is a zone change, just like we did in the process of doing, was proposed for the agritourism regulation number 1, and what we're in the process of doing for the solar power at the for the third party use at the town transfer station. Because even that is going to require a second application after that, if that is approved. Again, a special exception application. Any other questions from the board? I hear nothing. Ben, you have the floor again.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that the special exception application is where the community will see the details of what's being proposed, and also like to positively forewarn people that what was seen in 2020 is not what is in the docket for subsequent years, and also simply that would be the time frame where I'd be able to present to the community what is part of that plan to address those concerns, because there are a lot of things that can happen to address and mitigate the potential concerns that I'm fully aware of. So I wanted to just head that conversation off, and just to let people know where my mindset is on this process. But the PDD portion of the zoning process is fairly straightforward. It is captured within this document. Dave, aside from reading through it, it is what it is, and it's very procedural. So I don't really have a lot of commentary around it.
That's no problem. I just wanted you to put this is your application and your regulation that we're going to review, and we may suggest adjustments to it along the way.
Yeah, and that's the process where it has to be mutually. We have to be on the same page on what this is captured, and that's the premise for this moving forward.
And we have to make sure it's complete and it's enforceable from our point of view too.
Dave, you can seat Chris.
Oh, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Tony. In just a second, Ben. Actually, no, it's over here. Oh, we're already there. I have it over here. And so I would like to speak Chris Chaplagoni for Del Knox, and he arrived at approximately 7. Chaplione, okay. Okay, Chaplione for Del Knox. I apologize, and I'm the person who gets their name butchered half the time anyway, but
That's it.
it doesn't matter how long the name is, it still gets butchered. And I was seeing him for Del Knox, and he arrived at approximately 7:21 p.m. And so then basically, let me get back here. And so we have a PDD. What does the board say?
This is Eileen Arbutus. I would like to make a motion to accept the application.
You can't see me smile at the choice of words.
Not to accept, to receive the application
Thank
for
you.
the PDG that is on tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second?
Bill Ailes, I will second.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, can I comment?
No,
I believe you have a procedural problem with the application.
Could you introduce yourself since you're speaking first?
Sure. Yes. So my name is Phil Piers. I'm an attorney in Wolf, and a group of residents that are concerned about the concerts that have occurred at South Farms in the future for the property. So I would like to raise a procedural problem I think that exists with the application. I don't think you can accept it tonight.
Okay, and that is what's missing.
So unless there are documents that were not made available online, there's section 55 of your regulations. An application for a planned development district shall include, accompanied by the following. There's a requirement for a written statement setting forth the regulations that are proposed to be modified and setting forth additional standards that are proposed. General plans are required of proposed development, including site plans, architectural plans, and other drawings as relevant, in sufficient detail to show the general nature of the planned development district. 4 copies must be submitted. A stormwater management plan designed in accordance with the requirements of the town of Morris, low-impact sustainable development design manual. And I think as a threshold issue, each lot has to be more than 10 acres in size. He has an assembly problem because he has not merged the lots. If he wants to merge them, I guess he could put an application for the one lot. But, I think without the plans, you can't see what he's, suggesting be done, which is why you have it in your regulations. I understand procedure on special exceptions to authorize the use, but there's a reason why you have this regulation in here on your planned development district in section 55. So I think at a minimum, you've got to have them submit a complete application so you can decide whether you're going to accept it. This, from what I've seen, is not complete unless there are materials that were not made available to the public.
So if I can respond?
and
Go
also,
on, Ben.
David, we can see everything you're looking at on your computer in case there's anything that's private.
So, Phil, thank you for your feedback and joining our mailing list. I wanted to go through the items that you captured here. And as I stated initially, this was based on section 55 and the precedent set for the other 2 accepted applications in the town of Morris. All the line items here are captured as line items that would be detailed in the special exception application. They cannot be omitted in that application. And in that step in the process, they will be detailed and discussed. Regarding,
Let me bring up the town. No, bear with me. I'm just working on bringing up the town regulations.
Page 75, David.
Yeah, I know. I just gotta. Hopes to put it. This isn't the most current one, but this hasn't.
Wasn't the site plan on the documents on the website, or am I not thinking that out correctly? I thought I saw a drawing attached to the tonight's agenda.
you're correct, it is attached.
So,
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't think that's a site plan on regulation. I
It
think what
just looks
that
like
is
a
like a
map.
survey. Yeah, it looks like a survey or a map.
It's an A2 drawing,
Right, that's a survey.
correct.
A site plan typically would show the plan of development for the property.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying. And again, I'm defaulting to the precedence that was set for the other 2 accepted applications.
I don't know that I'm not sure whether they had a soil and sedimentation plan, but I guess the one option we have is that we could still process the application and reject it without prejudice if we find that that's missing. If that,
Which we have done many times in the past.
yeah,
Except
So-
with the condition of having items that we need.
I would also raise the point that, an attorney that's representing a group of the public, in terms of having them speak at this point, that's not really the question for the board at this stage in the meeting.
no, but no, there is a question here is whether the application is complete, and
In
if it's
fairness,
incomplete,
I had
Go.
my counsel review this application with obviously not the bias that Mr. Perez has in his commentary.
understand.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to the board and presented a partial application and waste people's time.
No, I understand. I do understand that.
The other point that he brought up regarding the lot size, if you look at the Winvian application, they packaged their lot size as a single block using a set point of acreage. And they do the exact same thing and contain it as a single value, a single lot, and define it as such in their opening paragraph, exactly as I have here. Again,
Just,
So
I
I
mean, that means that they kind of set the precedent there, wouldn't you say?
it
Well,
was
the difference
accepted
on
application.
that one, and we can, I think it's also going to be up to the board to do some research to confirm what's contention. My recollection on the Winvian application is that there were two lots, but they were both large lots. There weren't any small acreage lots on those properties. And that's something we'll have to, my feeling is that the process will be, and unless Ben can address it. I mean, it's
Well,
up to
let me-
Ben whether he wants.
Let me put this to
to-
bed right here, at least that portion of it. You can start peeling back and making assumptions on what was presented in that application, but at the end of the day, it was presented exactly how this one is laid out in front of you.
Your application is on your regulation is complete, and I do tend to believe that there weren't soil and sedimentation. That may well be true of that application and of the
And I also,
country.
again, just want to highlight the bias. Just as Pearlie Grimes came in and, threw grenades during that opening meeting months ago, this is really not a different situation where, this person's being hired, obviously.
We're not here to cast aspersions. That's not what this is about. We're here to come up with process this application, make sure it's complete, and if the board finds it's not complete, we can always reject it without prejudice, as Eileen says. We've done many times before. That would allow you to come back and reapply, addressing any issues that we bring up in the application. But Phil raises, some potential concerns that we need to dot the i's and cross the t's on, no matter what we do.
Absolutely. And that's why
And you're interested in doing that too.
I completely agree. And
So,
that's why I felt,
excuse me, guys, I'm sorry that there's all this commentary going, but I think we're out of order because there is a motion on the floor in a second.
Well,
So we
Yes,
either have
okay.
to accept the motion,
well,
or
I think
decline the motion.
well, I think that's a good point, Eileen. I think we should, I'm not ready to call the question yet because I think the board will want to weigh in on this, not just you and me. And so I would kindly ask at this point that Ben and Phil, if we can turn this over to the board to discuss how we want to proceed.
certainly.
This is Doug Barnes. What I'm not understanding is why we would need to, if there are potential issues with it, with whether or not this application can be received formally at this point, why we would not refer those to, say, Steve Byrne
I think before we even refer anything to Steve Byrne, I think that may be something we want to do over the next couple of weeks. But, and actually, one other thing, I just realized the motion's not complete. We're receiving the application. When are we setting the public hearing for?
So this is Eileen. I would like to make an amendment to my original motion. My motion was to accept, to receive the application, the PDD application, and set a public hearing for 2 weeks from tonight.
I think given the questions that we have here, it's probably, and I mean, first of all, Tony, does that give us adequate time to notice this?
What is the date in 2 weeks? Because I know that there is something going on the 24th.
1 second, let me look at the calendar quick and I can just,
Today's the 3rd, 2 weeks is the 17th.
okay, well, our next,
And the 24th is
next-
3 weeks.
our next regular meeting is the 7th of April. I know that seems like far off, but I feel like if we did that by then, everyone I think would have everything ready for that day. We could also be more prepared. As
Hey,
a
David.
board.
We
It's
have
Veronica.
35 days to open the public hearing. And
David.
that's, but no, let me finish, then I'll turn it over to you, Eileen. I just want
That's
to,
Veronica.
oh, Veronica, I'm sorry, Veronica.
That's okay.
We have 35 days to open the public hearing. So it's the 3rd, so that is cutting it close. But it's still within the time range. And, because otherwise, we need to get an extension from Ben because it's, actually, no, it's 65 days to open the public hearing. No, that's fine. April 7th is good. And have it
And
backwards.
Dave, also, can I just make a point too? If we think that we
Yeah.
need something else, we can always, we always have our Monday meeting as well, just in case we decide to take that
Well,
route.
no, once we set the public hearing date, no further discussion on the matter should occur.
David,
That's,
it's Veronica. Does it really
Veronica,
make
please, yeah.
sense to receive an application that has to do with agritourism when we haven't even completed our thoughts on an agritourism regulation?
Well, we have an application before us. That I think we can talk to that, Ben. Once he makes the application, we're obliged to. It's I know Phil Paris might disagree with me, but sometimes it's better to receive an application that's incomplete and reject it without prejudice rather than not process the regulation, especially if it's a subdivision or re-subdivision application. That failure to act on an application like that can potentially make it give it a pocket approval. The fact we didn't act on it. So in general, it's probably safer to receive an application and set a public hearing date, and then act accordingly after you close
Right.
the public hearing.
Right, like Dave, I think what you're trying to say is just because we have received the application does not mean that we accept the application.
Exactly. That's why we receive it. Bingo.
Right. I would like to put the public hearing out farther because aren't we supposed to be talking to Janelle about agritourism itself on our next meeting?
Yeah, we're talking April 7th. We did put it out farther. It's April 7th.
Well, I still think that's too soon, but
You want, well, I guess the next meeting, the 7th would be is it the 10th? I think it would be because the 5th and 5 and 7, it would be the 12th, right?
it would be the
It would be
12th.
the 12th. Yeah.
I mean, just because there's lots to talk about.
Well, again,
Well,
it's not the special exception, it's just this application as it's written.
Right.
So I don't know if necessarily how much there would be actually to discuss.
All right, I just think
Yeah.
the 12th would be better. Anybody else? The 12th,
And,
okay?
and also Veronica, we can't really blend in agritourism regulations with this regulation in a sense, as in they're two
Yeah,
separate things
it's not
currently.
agritourism, it's a
They are
PDD.
completely separate though. Yeah.
Right, but he said the
And we have
purpose
an
is to
application
allow
before. It's
South
worldwide.
Farms to operate agritourism. That's number 2, the purpose. So unless we have decided what agritourism is, I'm just saying.
Well, there is no definition. Well, that's one question. That's one thing that may need to be beefed up in the regulation. Unless I understand, but did he provide a definition of agritourism in his regulation? That I don't remember.
He put purpose. The purpose is to allow South Farms to operate agritourism. And agritourism use is to promote preservation of large farm properties that have existed since prior to the adoption of zoning in Morris, and that are now threatened to disappear due to the endangered economics of traditional farming. And that's all it says about the purpose. But then under
On this
uses,
one, I would,
he put under uses permitted by special, well, that's for the special exception, which we don't want to talk about, so.
so I'm going to ask Ben to unmute himself because he did raise his hand and
I just wanted to
go ahead.
help out with Veronica's comment there. Yeah, you highlighted the first paragraph that just generalized that definition, which is dependent on what the town decides for a general agritourism definition.
Right.
There are two parallel tracks. There is obvious overlap in theme, but they are really two different processes and purposes. This is really just inclusive to this 10.8 acre parcel. The definition outlined in section 7 for the special exception, that was the part I was prefacing earlier on about that's where we have to get into the weeds of what the actual specifics are of the deployment of anything that's happening here in the future. And I think those will clearly address any of Phil's concerns as well. And again, that's where we have that conversation to find out what the balance is. But within that section 7.1, Veronica, that's the sentence there outlines what is being defined as that.
Okay.
No, actually, I finally read this. I read this again, and I still say we should receive this and process it, but I actually now have concerns about number 3, the boundaries, and the fact that you're not talking about the whole portion of 621 Higby Road, that you're just talking a designation port. Because I beyond the, you know, I think you'd have to merge the lots together to make that legal, but that's something we'll refer to our attorney on. And yes, so
Again,
I guess we have a motion on the table.
Dave, I just want to clarify that one point though, is that I did work with counsel on that portion, but yeah, we will, I completely agree with you. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, and we need to get input on that from our attorney. And I'm probably glad to hear your attorney's input on it too.
So what was that date that we decided so that I can reverse my original motion and make sure that it's giving the exact.
It's probably, you are gone into a tin can for a minute. And so I guess what I'd like to interject, this is David Weig, Chairman again. I'd like to interject Eileen and ask you and Bill, want to just withdraw the current motion, and Eileen, you can make a brand new motion that, so we don't have, I just think that's cleaner. Would you please?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to, can you guys hear me now?
Sort of. So you're willing to withdraw your, yes, you're willing to withdraw your motion?
Perfect. I would like to withdraw my original motion.
Excuse me, thank you. Is that acceptable, Bill?
Yes, that's acceptable. Yes.
Okay. Hold on.
Thank
Now you
you.
can go ahead, Eileen.
All right, I would like to have a new motion. The new motion will be to receive the PDD application for South Farms and set the public hearing for the Wednesday meeting, the Monday meeting in April.
Which is Monday, April 12th.
Monday, April 12th.
And Bill Ellis will second that.
Thank you, Bill. And the
Thank
whole
you,
point
Bill.
is that, the whole point, the person seconding it does have some power, and if they wanted for some reason to keep it the original motion, and that's why they seconded. But, okay, further debate. Any other input from anybody? Oh, I just want to add that Jeff Plesky joined the meeting at approximately, let's say 7:38, and he is appointed for Robert McIntosh. Okay, any further debate? Hearing nothing, I'll call the question. All those in favor of receiving this application for a planned development district and setting the public hearing for Monday, April 12th at 7 p.m. via Zoom.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Dave Weig, Chairman, stating that the motion has carried. And that's, now that we have the motion in place, I think the one thing we need to do is, I have to have is really process related. Tony, there are a lot of communications that I have. Some of I've shared with you and some I haven't had time to share with you. Will you be able to compile these all and get them to the town clerk to post on the website?
We can do
sometime
that.
between-
We can do that. I just have one question though. I mean, shouldn't anything kind of what we receive should be from now on because of the new application? All those things refer to something different, I feel like. And that
Yeah,
maybe
because
we should,
I agree. Everything we've received in the past is prior to this application.
I feel like we should get all new people should.
That's something, well, we'll keep that in one pile and we'll keep anything new in another pile. But I do think that the applicant did send me some communications that he wanted included in the discussion. So if we include that, then I would say we have to include the prior communications from others too. But I will
really up
refer
to
that
the
to
board. It's really up to the board. They want to move forward in reality.
Say it again, Tony, I'm sorry.
I think it's really up to the board how they want it, set it up in a sense,
So this is Eileen.
But I
My
think-
thought on the whole thing is that any comments we've received, either pro or against what has been taking place at this property, was based upon the application because of COVID, not this permanent PDD that is asked to be on the table. So my preference would be that any of those communications have to do with the COVID approval, not this application that we received tonight.
This is
And,
Veronica.
well,
That makes
there-
sense, Eileen.
Though, and there are also comments regarding an agritourism regulation too, which I tend to say that may not apply to this either. But but I guess what I will do, I mean, I'm agreeable to that as long as as Steve Byrne is comfortable with that. Dave Weig's taking that statement.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think we should go at it the best way possible. And yeah, that's probably better to ask him.
Eileen, and this is Dave Wig. I respect your opinion. It's a valid point, and it's something we need to consider because this is now we have a agritourism PDD application that is different. Though I would think that some of the communications over the past week, once people were aware of the application, do pertain to this. Hence creating a gray area. But I will defer to Steve's opinion on that matter. And that way we're comfortable. And I would have just assumed to include everything.
Absolutely. I
Personally,
just don't want comments from like October brought into this new application because that, in my opinion, has no bias.
I understand.
It has no grounds.
Well,
The
well,
application. But again, that's just my opinion, and I will let the board also give their opinion.
No, I respect that opinion, and I don't consider it just opinion. I mean, you're concerned about applicability, and I get it. Does anybody else want to comment? No problem. I didn't want to. If anybody had, I know Veronica did.
I'm the one driving, and I'm the one doing all the talking, David.
No, you're bringing up good points. I appreciate it, and thank you for your dedication. I really do appreciate it. Okay, so I will consult, and I will have Steve review this and give us his opinion. Is that acceptable?
It's Veronica. That's fine with me.
That makes sense to me as well. This is Eileen. Thank you very much for doing that.
No problem. I just want to be clear.
And
I'm not
April
just
12th should give us enough time too. So this is very helpful.
Yeah. And two other comments that and Tony and I will talk offline to make sure we have the necessary information put together, based on process we followed in the past, just to confirm it. So, I mean, Ben's statement that it covered 2 lots is a very fair and accurate statement, because that was my recollection of the Winfield Farm application, because there was a property on each side of the of Elaine Wright Road, property that used to have the grapevines and the Admiral Birdhouse. But anyway, we'll get in. I don't know that for a fact, and that's I believe that's fact, but I don't want to rely solely on memory, so that doesn't really count.
Vinny isn't a disruption to the community.
I'm sorry, who is it who is speaking? That doesn't sound like a board member.
Excuse me. Could you please state your name and please mute yourself at this point? We really shouldn't be taking any input on this. I believe it was Joyce Woodward who spoke.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Dave, can you make me co-host again?
Oh, yes, I can. Thank you. I wouldn't say there's any issue with Joyce Woodward. I know she was making a statement for the record, but I can't handle statement for the record right now. I just want to make sure we've got.
Yeah, right. We can't have any public comments on non-agenda items. And again, that's something on the agenda that is later in the evening.
We can have public on non-agenda items. This is an agenda item, so we have no
comments on
comment on
non-agenda items. Yes, and that's later in the agenda.
Oh, because we're not supposed to take any testimony on this till the public hearing. And my statements about the other PDD applications are statements of what's in my memory, which is something that's legally admissible. That doesn't have to necessarily be brought up at a public hearing, but I would still state that anybody who has history on any of these applications should bring up that fact at a public hearing and put that on the record. The whole point is that the public hearing is the record of the evidence that we need to base our approval on.
Right, and this is Eileen. Actually, the comments from the attorney should not even be put into consideration because that is from the public.
The comments from the attorney will be put into the record. Oh, that was before the application. You can see that Phil Paris is not commenting at this point in time. So that's the plan of attack at this point in time. And we will pick this matter up on April 12th. So the next item on the agenda is right over here, and old business 4A. Now, what's the latest on 199 West Morris Road, Tony?
I invited him to this meeting and he said he would be here, but I don't see him named here unless he's one of the phone numbers that has no name attached.
So is anybody here for 199 West Morris Road? Hearing silence. What's the latest on the matter?
Well,
What you
he was
haven't
supposed to come to the meeting, but actually, you know what I'll do? I'll email him, see if he makes the Monday meeting. And what I'll do is also get pictures for the board too, so we kind of know what's the situation. I
Yeah.
think that's a good
I
idea.
think that'd be excellent.
I think that's a
That's a
better
good
idea. And then I think we'll
Thank
just go from there, and I'll try to contact him, see why he missed the meeting and whatsoever. So yeah, that's the plan of attack, as you said before.
Sounds cool. Okay. Then we'll jump to 4B, agritourism amendment to the regulations. We are going to discuss that at our next meeting on 8th. That's one of the two items for discussion. The second being 4C, which is the discussion for regulation change for solar arrays, which we have a public hearing scheduled for, so there should be no comment on that matter at tonight's meeting or under number 8, but that's on non-agenda items. Number 8 is on public input on non-agenda items, non-agenda items. And moving along, 5A, 89 Anderson Road. Any update from Steve on this?
No, well, the current update is, I don't know, Dave, you scroll down, we have the paper that says that he got served by a marshal to prove that he received it.
Well, here's the map that's associated with this, the previous application. And here is our, okay, and that happened on February 25th.
Yeah, I emailed him the 24th, or I called him the 24th, and he went the next day. So now we can because we have to write up a new citation, we have to wait the 30 days, and then we go from there again. So yeah.
Cool. Gotcha.
And
Thank
yeah,
you, Tony.
yeah, and I went there today, and they were there, by the way.
I saw him the other day too. It's Veronica.
Yeah, I got the pictures to prove it. So
Okay, 6A is February 24th special meeting minutes.
This is Veronica. I'd like to make a motion to accept the special meeting minutes from February 24th, 2021.
You can approve them.
I'm sorry, approve.
Do I have a second? Do I
Approve
have a
them.
second? Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second Bill Els.
Thank you, Bill. Any discussion, anything on this? Hearing nothing, I will call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I believe
Motion
Chris is
carried.
abstaining because he was not at the meeting.
That's true, and he's due to
Oh,
the
yeah, I
process.
abstain.
and- Thank you, Chris. Actually, Actually, I take it, Jeff Pilecki is abstaining too. I think he's still here. I did see him join. I did admit him, I thought.
Jeff, are you abstaining? Or?
Jeff was at that meeting. He was in the
Oh.
Oh, he was? Okay.
meeting, I believe.
I don't see him.
Oh, no,
Well,
no,
I'm
no,
sorry,
you're
guys,
right,
I was muted.
absolutely.
Guys, I apologize. I was talking to myself. I was muted. No, I abstained. I was not.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you for being here tonight too. Appreciate it.
Yep.
I do that half the time too when I go on mute.
I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand why nobody heard me. I'm screaming. I abstained. I abstained first. I was like, I'm the first one. Ugh.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I'm glad you know the stick. That's good. Okay, and the motion has carried. Over here. And we have 6B, training.
He wasn't. Yes, so this is Eileen. I know
Eileen.
that there are some relatively new board members. And I think that it may be a prudent decision for the group to go through some Robert's rules training. I don't know if there's somebody that can come in and just give it to us or if it's like online training, but I think that it would be, especially given the legalities of the applications that we get, make sure that we're accepting them properly and things like that, that we should, the members of the
Receiving them properly.
Exactly. So I think we should be having this training. That's just my opinion. I want to know what everyone else thinks and if we can get that moving.
This is Jeff Pilecki again. I agree. I think that would be fantastic. We are a relatively junior board. I think it would be great.
It's
Dave,
Veronica. I got 2 words. Can't hurt.
Dave, can we ask Tom, since I think he is here, if he has any resources available?
Mike.
Yes, I believe CCM, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, may be able to offer that training to you. I'll look into it for you, along with the Freedom of Information training also.
Yeah, that's good, because we should have that. That's important. Thank you. Okay, anything else, Eileen? Is that, should address it, if we can get that lined up.
It's
No, I
Veronica,
think that's
David.
great.
As far as training goes, Eileen, I think I just want to mention to everybody else to keep your eyes peeled for Jocelyn's emails of when the Northwest COG has seminars that would be useful for us that we should attend.
That's true. Thank you, Veronica. Very good point. Dave Weig, moving on with the agenda. 7A, the zoning enforcement officer report. I know I've got that open here somewhere. Yes, I do.
Should we do the bill for COG right now too while we're doing this?
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, well, actually, we can do that. We added it to the agenda, so we'll do it under the agenda item.
Okay.
But it just let people comment on it. And I think that @ sign is meant to be a $sign.
Most
Or the
likely, yes.
ampersand.
So basically, the zero report is there on the screen. There was 4 applications. One is a single family home. One is a restoration of a home. JMS added a little outdoor classroom pavilion. The fee is waived because it's the organization, the school. We have an applicant that has not paid for their application. They're doing a little solar array at their house. And that's at 100. Yeah, and I'm just waiting for the thing, and it's in the meets the setback and all the requirements. So,
And the
and
check's
that-
in the mail.
it should be. It should be. And then legal fees total this month, if you add the Island Trail and the Anderson Road, about $3,883.50. You guys wanted me to add that, so I added that.
Yeah, I have requested that, actually. I just think the board would like to see that. And I think since we do have ongoing legal stuff happening, we need to be aware of what's going on and know what we're doing.
And I will keep posting them monthly as they arrive in the ZR reports. So
Thank you, Tony.
And then COG sent us a bill for $2,762 for all the POCAT help. And that's basically from the whole, they help the whole year, basically.
It's Veronica. I could say that is really reasonable compared
Yeah.
to what I thought we were gonna pay with like Hiram Peck or something.
Yeah, it's a fairly
Yeah,
good price.
Really
and I
good.
think she put 25 hours into that. I'm amazed it's only 25 hours.
No, me
David?
too.
It's Tom White.
Yes.
Well, we got a comment from Bruce Witchen from the Office of Policy and Management about the plan of conservation development. And he
Yeah.
reviewed the plan and he'd like to give Morris a 5-year bonus for having the greatest
Wow.
POCAD cover photo ever. But the
Oh.
Yay!
statutes do not allow that, so. Just wanted to
Thank
pass that
I
along.
know. That's good. Thank you.
No
Tom.
way.
It
Are
is
you
great.
joking, Tom?
I'll send you the email.
That's
five-
awesome.
That is.
Your bonus is facetious, but I think that's a credit to the people of Morris.
That is. Thanks for sharing that, Tom.
I think it also is a credit to that beautiful postcard we sent out asking for pictures.
It is. Thank you, Eileen and Eileen's sister.
Exactly. Okay, so we now are on to, let's see if I'm keeping track of numbers. We're not on to 7B.
Oh, yeah, Dave, this is Ron Schaefer. One sec. Just for future ZEO things, this Northwest Council of Governments, 25 hours. Can it specifically be more specifics and say, POCAD work? Because we're going to have future ones for the agritourism. It'd be nice to sort of itemize it so we know what's what.
I
We'll get
agree,
those.
Ron.
But we'll get the itemization in, in the bills that we receive.
I think what he's
because
saying
they
is on
say-
the agenda. That way we know which exactly we're approving.
Well, also, I guess at the end of the year on the budget, it'd be, instead of just saying miscellaneous or something, it should say, I don't know. It'd be nice to have this itemized somewhere besides just in the air, I guess.
I have the bill. I just figured for the ease of the ZEO report for this.
But the thing is, all the legal bills come to us for approval anyway, correct?
All of them above $750, yes.
Well, then I think on any item that we receive under $750, that the board would really want to see a copy of the invoice in, at least at the meeting after it got paid as part of your ZEO report.
Sure,
just-
I can add it to the agenda, sure.
Because I believe we had done that in the past, that, anything that's under 750 that doesn't come to us and doesn't tie up discussion time at the meeting. And I think that was back in the time when we wouldn't have meetings. We would, we went months without having a meeting sometimes, it seemed. And, therefore, for expedited.
Now we're
to
lucky if
expedite
we
that,
only have 2 meetings a month. It's more like 6 a month, it feels like.
Well, I don't think we need to have more than 2 meetings a month, and I think we need to get away from multiple meetings a month. But we did start doing that, and hopefully we can scale that back. And just for the record on public hearings, I kind of gave you a piece of that information. When you have something that goes to a public hearing, you have 65 days to open that public hearing. Once that public hearing is open, you have 35 days to close it. And then once it closes, you have 65 days to make a decision. Now, those time frames can be doubled if the applicant consents to that happening. So you could have 130, 70, and 130. But that's not necessarily how you would do it. You do it as you need it. Anyway, just for the record, point of information.
So, hey, this is Ron
Mhm.
again. Tony, this is great, your ZEO report. I'm not complaining or anything. It'd be nice to know, like, at the end of the year or time, because we're gonna have a lot of bills from Northwest Council of Governments, I guess, with the agritourism. So it might, at the end of the year, look like $8,000, but, or whatever. It would just be nice to know to have those separated. So when we look at our budget later, we sort of know what went where and how much things cost us over time, I guess, specifically. I don't know if it has anything to do with the ZEO report. I'm just commenting to the board. How do we separate these or aggregate these or see them when we do our budgets and stuff?
So this is Jeff. Tony, are they itemized when they come to you?
Well, the Steve Burns
Well, I mean,
bills
in the
are
Northwest.
itemized. Yes, they are. This one also was actually, it said what the hour, it didn't like itemize like Steve Byrne does it by hour, like, 1 hour spent doing this. This one was more like a list of things they did and then just the total bottom hours.
Okay.
Well, we're kind of digressing here. I'll just spend a minute and show you what we do. I don't remember if you were at that meeting or not. It's decreasing the Zoom to get the whole thing. Actually, maybe I should change the Zoom.
Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
My computer's freezing, so if you don't hear anything, it might break, but I think it'll be all right.
Yeah. And I'm not saying
But
yeah,
let
I
me
was-
interject here, please, Ron. This is David Wiegand, Chairman again. I just want to point out that this is what we looked at when we worked on the budget. And right here is that we have the year to date, at the point in time was 5530. And the remainder of that, which isn't on the list, I think that probably should be added, was probably South Farms. But those are the, that's what we will see. And I think, but the point being is that if, we have the invoices that we've approved that come to the board because of the total dollar amount, we have the ones that Tony receives that if he provides records of all these, as we go through the year, it's up to us as board members to keep track of them and use that as a reference when making these decisions. I mean, it's like if we provide it during the year, it becomes on us to keep track of that. In my opinion, anyway. If the board wants to disagree with me and make a motion that the report needs to include any invoices related to the stuff, feel free to do so. But
Dave, this is Ron. So I guess the agritourism would be the town planner. That stuff would go under town planner.
Yes, that would be.
And then, so what would this POCAD work go under? Just out of curiosity.
That's town planner.
Okay. All right.
And the dollar value we're approving here we'll be approving in the next budget line item, next line item on the agenda that we added will, still leave us well under the 6,000. So the time we're spending with Janelle is still within budget.
I guess, I mean, we're not going to do the POCAD until another 10 years, right?
Correct.
The Lord.
But we're working on, well, no, we don't, we could make a change partway through. We don't have to wait 10 years to put out a new plan of conservation and development.
I guess all I'm saying is just because the POCAD is like sort of it's a big one-time thing that, like, next year we might only spend $400 on the town planner, and the people would say, well, why did you spend $8,000 in 2001? And we could say, oh, well, some of that was for the POCAD that we did, and some of that was for the agritourism. That's all I'm saying. I'm done.
No problem. Thank you, Ron.
Actually, Ron,
No,
it's
no.
Veronica. The POCAD's not going to be in the rearview mirror because once we're done with it and it's accepted or approved or whatever our verbiage has to be, I think we should all make a list and pick one thing that we want to work on during the year and then vote to see which thing we want to work on first so we can actually start doing stuff from the POCAD.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just saying budget. Yeah, of course. I'm just saying monetarily, like we're not going to
Right.
spend much money on it.
Well, we might need, if we have to write a new regulation for something in the POCAD, we might need that town planner
Yes.
help.
Right, and that
You're
would go
right,
under
and
town,
we-
and that would go under town planner. But I'm just
Yeah.
trying to, anyway,
No, it's a
No,
good idea.
but
So we
they're-
can be able to know what we spent our money on. Yeah.
They're fair questions and fair statements. I have no issue with that. But, and actually we are spending working on spending the remainder of the 6,000 for this year. And who knows, maybe we'll be working on some of that with the 4,000 next year too. But now that we do have an approved town plan of conservation and development, it is time to start thinking beyond agritourism, what we want to do after agritourism. To
Yeah,
Veronica's point, but
The planning will go more towards new things we want to do, you know what I mean?
exactly. So this line item will be used, and we do potentially need 3,000 to 4,000 in it for each year, hopefully, because hopefully, as Veronica says, we'll come up with a staggered plan to actually take action on things that we should take action on. So anyway, I'd like to move the agenda along and segue from this into the let me get this thing. Okay, here we are. This is get back to Tony's report.
Do we need to vote to approve these bills or no?
Yes. Well, 6.
Just the cog bill. The other ones we already did.
All right,
Which is
it's
what we need
Veronica.
to-
I would like to make a motion to pay the Northwest Council of Governments bill of $2,762.
Eileen,
Do I have
second.
a second? Thank you, Eileen, and thank you, Veronica. This is Dave Weed, Chairman. Does anybody have any additional comments on this?
can I triple
invoice?
that? Can I triple it?
It would blow the budget. You might be able to double it and get away with it, but we still hope to spend some of that money. They're
No, I
still going
don't
to get
mean-
more money from us,
I mean,
and they've got a $15,000 grant.
I think he meant triple the
that-
approval, David.
yeah, like second it, triple it, that's all.
Oh, you want to issue a third? Okay,
Yeah, third.
on a fourth and a fifth and a sixth and a seventh. Well, I'm going to call. I'm going to, based on that, I'm going to call the question so we can make it at least an 8, because I think there are 8 of us here tonight. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried.
Who seconded it so I can write it down?
Eileen.
Okay, thank
Eileen.
you. I appreciate it.
Do we have to approve the other? Do we have to
We
approve
already
the other?
did last meeting.
They've already been approved.
Oh,
They're
that's right.
no, that's okay. Fair question. That's okay. So, public input on non-agenda items. We cannot talk about anything else other and let's see.
Only things that have nothing to do with the agenda.
Annetta once raised her hand.
So do
Oh,
we need to
Anita?
go over the procedure on how to raise a hand in case there's people on the meeting that don't know
Um,
how to do that?
If somebody has already raised their hand. We cannot talk about, I guess we cannot discuss the agritourism regulation, the solar change, or the PDD application. So what do you have to say that doesn't apply to that, Anita? You're welcome to speak. I do want your input. I just want to make clear what the ground rules are.
Okay,
So
hi,
if
thank
you
you,
unmute-
everybody. I just have a question, and maybe this isn't the right time to ask this question. It was just about really for Tony, what the status is of hybrid meetings for future meetings.
Oh, that's a fair question. Go ahead.
Oh,
What
so
is the?
I'm wondering
and
if
we
there's
have someone.
an ability to for some of us to meet in person for that public hearing. That's my question. Thank you.
Tom, actually, we have Tom White here. He's the first selectman, and he's probably the best person to comment on that. If you could, please, Tom.
Yeah, I believe there's some legislation going on to allow hybrid meetings moving forward, but they are happening now as part of, I believe, the executive order. But I think they're working on legislation to make that something that will go on beyond the executive orders.
And what is the current town policy?
They are allowed as long as you meet the social distancing and capacity of whichever venue you choose.
This is Jeff. How does the board feel about moving to hybrid meetings? I know everybody likes these Zoom meetings. They're convenient, and but I know there's a lot of people in town that would like to.
I mean, I'm not opposed to having hybrid meetings. I just, as long as they're hybrid meetings, I know I don't want to disenfranchise people who don't want to go out but still want to have their say. And, you know, given social distancing, we'd have to hold this at the James Morris Gymnasium.
Good.
Even get close to probably the number of people that would want to attend socially distanced. So that those to me are, this is Dave Wig, if I'm correct, that would probably be the ground rules. And what was that, you, Ron, or who was that?
No, it was me. I was just wondering, see, the thing is at the town hall, all the stuff is set up for the computer part of the hybrid meetings.
Bad. Bring
So
a laptop.
all that stuff would basically have to go there, the James Morris School. And how feasible is that? Is the real question.
Yeah, I know that. I don't know.
Well, this is Eileen. I know that we're having a town meeting next week and the backup location is the gymnasium. So
Okay.
I don't want to speak for Tom, but I'm sure that it is something that we would be able to facilitate at the gym if we had to.
Are the town, this is Jeff, are the town meetings in a hybrid?
Yes, the town meeting that we're having next week is going to be both in person and through Zoom.
You know, I realize in our public hearing, things that we have coming up in the near future are probably going to draw quite a few residents. So I understand that it may be tricky in the short, very short term, but.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add on the matter, Anita? Is your hand is
I
still
guess
up?
I'm also just thinking how you could predict how many people to expect, or if it's limited to just town residents, what the parameters are for a public hearing. I'm not familiar.
We can't limit the number of people who attend. And, you know, I think that maybe what we should do is, you know, have Tony and Tom talk and determine what the logistics are and what's feasible and what's not. And we can add that to the agenda for Monday. And, you know, so we can have a more educated and focused discussion on it. Is that workable?
I think that sounds fine.
That's a good idea.
No, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's let me and Tom discuss how it's possible, and then we'll talk about it Monday.
I mean, here's just something to think about. Like, if you do have a big crowd and then there's rules that you have to have social distancing, how do you keep people away? Maybe we need to come up with like a sign up system or something, like you get a spot or something. I don't know.
You can't really, I don't think that's
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
legal.
It's a public meeting.
Yeah. you
But how-
would,
can't-
Oh, so
advertise that or
so what do you have a TV outside or something? I mean,
That's why I think Tony and Tom need to speak,
yeah.
and
So
maybe
this
can
is
it-
Eileen.
maybe
Can
they
you guys
wanna
hear me?
include me.
Yes.
Go on, Eileen.
Oh, this is Eileen. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so as the registrar of voters, when somebody has a town meeting, you cannot restrict people from coming to the meeting. But it is not, there is no precedent yet as far as the Zoom versus the in-person. So it is something that I am looking into very closely, especially given the town meeting next week. So I will have more information on that piece on Monday to provide to the board.
Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. Anita, before we close this out, your hand's still up. Is that just left over, or do you have one more thing you want to add?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'll take it down. Thank you.
No problem. You're welcome. Thank you. It was a very fair and valid point. Thank you for your question. I appreciate that. Because I really would like to move towards Zoom meetings. I don't mind showing up in person, but I don't want to disenfranchise somebody who doesn't want to show up in person these days.
Hey, Dave, it's Veronica. So if we have a lot of, if we don't go hybrid and we just do the Zoom meeting for this next public meeting where we're expecting a lot of people, does Zoom give limits on how many people can attend, or are we going to be able to accommodate everybody?
That's a
It
very good
depends
question,
on,
Tony.
it depends on what we've paid for. So
No.
Tony would know what we've paid for.
Gotta look at the settings. Give me a second.
I think we only paid for up to 100, but I could be mistaken.
That would be about the amount of people that went to the Dollar General public meeting.
Right,
Probably true.
but how many of them are going to be in person versus online?
Right, well, I'm saying
Right.
if we don't do a hybrid and we just do Zoom, are we going to be able to do all Zoom?
Accommodate them all, right? No, that's a
Good
very good
question.
point,
Good
Veronica.
question.
We might have to do a hybrid.
And we have, not hybrid meetings, but we have held meetings at James Morris before when we, Rod and Gun Club, bought the property on Anderson Road and Benton Road sort of thing. And they attracted quite a crowd. And we ended up holding it at the gym. So it's not unprecedented. The only time we once had a meeting at the Eisenhower Auditorium at Wamogo too.
This is Jeff. I know we'll probably get these answers next week, but does anybody know, Tony, do you know roughly what with the social distancing guidelines, what our meeting room at the town hall is good for, just out of curiosity?
You mean the max capacity, Jeff?
Yeah, right, exactly. Thank you for the clarification.
No problem, honey.
I'm not sure. Tom probably knows the max capacity.
We can
And
work
I
this
would-
out for Monday.
Yeah, that sounds
Right,
it's-
and I
it's
would
good for Monday.
think-
I apologize for.
Yeah, I
No,
would
it's a
think
fair
that
question.
the meeting would
It's a
be
very
in the
fair
gymnasium, not at the community hall, just given if
No.
we were to have it in person, just given the amount of bodies that would be in that room,
Of
we're not
course,
going to meet the 6 feet social distancing.
Of course. I was just curious, probably.
Yeah.
looking beyond that.
I think the capacity is
You need to know.
25 or 50%. And the capacity of that room is not very much, so.
Yeah. I know we had a meeting with Anita and the rest of the folks who, largely, I think, folks who were against the music back in late September, early October. Actually, probably may have been late September still. And we had that at the town hall. And we probably had 20, 30 people plus the Board of Selectmen there.
Yes, we had quite a few people there, David. This is Eileen, and social distancing was not apparent, in my opinion. There was multiple people on
There's
top of
not
each
an
other.
issue. Yeah. And we probably had at least 30 people. So, I mean, at a minimum, they can handle, you probably could have fit another 10 or 20 more. But I don't think we'd go much, we couldn't go over 50, I don't think
Yes,
at
but
all.
we wouldn't have been able to fit that many people keeping 6 feet between each person or each household. And that unfortunately is the current executive order.
Right.
The executive order is 6 feet or 50% or 25. We don't know. Well, this is for Monday. I guess we're just.
We need to get. We need to get that-
Yeah,
that
I'll
tomorrow.
have this all buttoned up for everybody on Monday's meeting. No problem, guys.
Eileen in the back.
Thank you, Eileen. And you can line things up with Tom too, so you get his details, Tony, if you could, please. And between the two of you, we'll have a fair and accurate picture, and we can make appropriate plans.
Sure.
And we'll have plenty of time before we need to notice the meeting on the 12th anyway.
We got lots of time.
Okay,
Cool.
okay, moving along, was there any other public comment, David?
Does not appear to be. Nobody else raised their hand. I know there are other people who have made comments before that are here that have not raised their hands. I know
Right, but
Helen
it's
looked like she,
non-agenda item, so if they haven't raised their hand, they're not gonna be heard
Right.
tonight.
Tick tock, because I'm on number 9 if nobody's going to raise their hand.
Yeah, and this will be the earliest meeting in months.
Yay.
yes, that's good.
All
I
right.
mean, it would be really nice if it was nicer out and we had a large outdoor like facility where we could house these kind of meetings, but
We have a hand.
Pete.
oh,
It's got to be
Hi,
off the agenda.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Can you give me
I'm
your full
sorry.
name? Could you give me your full name, please?
Yeah, do I have to?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do.
Okay. My full name is Pete Castelblanco.
Thank you, Pete. Go on.
I don't know if this is the right opportunity to make a comment, but I was a residential resort destination development consultant for hundreds of projects all over the world where we utilize agritourism in order to create.
no, I'm
mute
sorry,
you,
you're
Steve.
speaking about an item
have
on the
to mute you,
agenda.
Steve.
We
Steve.
cannot speak about any items on the agenda, Pete. Thank you very much.
Because 4B is an agritourism amendment, and so this is not the right time for that comment. If that agritourism amendment goes to gets put on, finalized and put on the agenda for a public hearing, at that public hearing, that would be a great time for feedback on that matter. I appreciate your knowledge and your history, and I do hope. And then the same thing with the PDD, if you have any comments that are relative to the PDD application and the agritourism aspect of that. I would appreciate to have your input at that point in time. And I thank you for your checking to make sure whether you could bring it up at this time, but those are items on the agenda that we really cannot talk about because we've passed those items and not everybody who was here for those items is still here, and therefore it's not right to make comments about them without the people that are interested in those items in attendance, or all of the people, because I know there are plenty of people that are interested in those items that are here still. Thank you.
Great. So, yep, we can't talk about it. Moving on.
So Veronica,
This is Veronica Florio. I would like to make a motion to adjourn the March 3rd regular meeting of the Morris Planning and Zoning Commission at approximately 8:33 PM.
do I have a second?
This is Jeff Piletsky. I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff.
Eileen, I'll third.
And Ronald fourth. You make it home yet, Eileen?
No, not quite yet.
Okay. Well,
we're glad you're
let
safe.
you focus on your driving. I appreciate your time and input. You are a valuable member of this committee, but there's nobody here I don't feel is a valuable member of this committee.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate that, but there is a motion on the table.
I'll call that question. Thank you, Eileen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Better not be.
Abstentions? Motion carried.